Thank you guys for being here today. Please, of course, put in any questions that you have along the way. Today, I want to build on what we were working on yesterday. I think it was interesting to talk about the aces and how they are an introduction. Oh, I like that. It's kind of a false alliteration. Aces are unique introductions to the tarot. Okay, I'm going to stop patting myself on the back. I threw this up earlier and I couldn't stop looking at it. And I wanted to bring this up. So we're going to talk today about the twos. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, please bring out your two of swords, two of cups, two of coins, and two of wands. We'll get to that other two in a moment. And arranging them in any order because Pamela Colman Smith, Pam was not a metaphysical master. She was, no offense, but she really wasn't. She was barely even a student. She got pulled away after doing this art, and she had her life commandeered by her new Catholic friends who got her to disavow and disabuse herself all of her work with the Golden Dawn. She left, put it behind her, never looked back, went off, did other things. And it was too bad because this was the height of her popularity and she wasn't really paid for it because it was a little slapdash job that she had more passion in creating than the people who commissioned her had her in the manufacture of, at least until they saw the money. Once people saw how much money was made, oh yeah, of course, then it was interesting, but that's kind of neither here nor there. So when we're looking at the twos in the tarot, I want to be very clear that numerology does not work in the tarot, period. End of story. Yes, I said it. If you are using numerology in the tarot, you are wrong and you will fail. If you want to use numerology, use it with playing cards. That is called cartomancy or cartomancy, if you want to be a jerk like me and pronounce it any way you like. Cartomancy. Cartomancy and reading with the playing cards. The twos mean this, and then the variation of that is it hearts. I'm going to remember right. Hearts, clubs, spades, and the other thing, diamonds. That's American. In Europe, they might have different suits. That's older than tarot. And it is a valid form of divination and manifestation. Cartomancy includes Lenormand. Lenormand is not the tarot, different thing, but it is cartomantic. It's all about the numbers. The pictures don't mean anything on the Lenormand. They're just pretty pictures, and that's cool. It's nice, but that is a different system. So I want to be very clear that the purpose of the tarot is to look at what the image says. Now, Pam took ideas from different artists. For example, and this is famous, is if we compare Saint Cecilia by John Waterhouse, which that painting was in the British Museum when Pamela was there, looking at it, and look at this, and this is just a plagiarism of Saint Cecilia. Not saying she did anything wrong, it's just, it's a rushed job, right? So she just sketched everything out and went back and, did the line work and then handed it off to the boss. That was her job. Unfortunately, she wasn't paid well and it was a slapdash, job, and it was done quickly. If you look at any of the other art and photographic representation of images, their printing abilities were so much better. Please don't look at this and think that 1910 printing technology was caveman. They did work that is comparable to today. It is stunning how great their work was, not just in black and white, but in color. But this distorts that because this is what we get. And we're like, oh, this is what it must have been look like. That's like saying this is what medieval times must have looked like, which is not even close. Point of all this is that this is the tarot we're given. The meanings of the cards originally came from a cartomantic style, where twos, threes, fours will mean this. So we can argue that the origins of tarot card meanings, at least the minor arcana, right? Of course they were cartomantic, because that's essentially what they had. You had 2 wands, 3 staves, 4 batons. It was like 2, 3, 4. That's all you had. You had that number of sticks. You can see this in every other European deck, because obviously there weren't American decks and there weren't British decks. So every other deck in the world up until this point, with the exception of the Solabusca deck, was not illustrated with images like this. And of course she stole from the Solabusca deck as well. But that's neither here nor there. It's long since past. It's just, this is what's official now. So this is what we have. Why do I say this? I say this because what we are told, and this is the best information that we have, is that Arthur Waite was focused almost exclusively, definitely primarily, on the trump cards, on the major arcana, being the magician through the world, and then of course the fool card, which is an escape card. And he had some strong feelings about other cards, especially the aces, and how he wanted them drawn out or illustrated. And he allegedly handed Pamela Colman Smith a sheet of paper with minimal writings on what each 2 through 10, or the pip cards, what they meant. So she had more free reign. But keep in mind that where did those meanings come from? Those meanings came from primarily the French, because that was the dominant force in the tarot, hence the why we call it tarot and not tarotchi, or whatever they call it in Spain or Germany or Austria. We've adopted the French name because the French people were dominant in the cards. Yes, Nicole, there's a famous letter that she wrote to somebody. She complaining about money and how she wasn't paid very well, and they were probably printed very badly, and they were probably colored horribly. She was not given access to this. This is just one of the few things that we know. It's also like the one letter that we have, that we know of, that came with the Roses and Lilies deck, that said, hey, here are your cards. We're going to be reprinting them a lot better quality in a month or two. But if you don't like these, send them back. And that's another reason why there's not so many Roses and Lilies. Is William Ryder and Son, before they became Ryder and Company, was blatantly saying, hey, we're going to do better. We know you like this, but we're going to do better. Send these back afterwards, and we'll just trade them in. Okay. So when we're looking at the 2s and the 3s and the 4s, not 1, not 2, not 3, when we're that never gets old in my head, because I'm so angry about the arrogance of that Miami Heat thing. That was just garbage. If you don't get the reference, that's okay. LeBron James. So when we're looking at the 2s and the 3s and the 4s and 7s and 9s, and Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, when we're looking at all of these, we're going to see enough similarities where we can argue, well, wait, there's numerology here, but we're going to see complete differences that make numerology not make sense. If you want to make a numerologically based tarot deck, now remember, a tarot deck must have the structure of the tarot. So don't change the structure, but you can change the art. People do that all the time, right? That's why we have thousands of different tarot decks, all with different art. Well, not all. Some of them are very, very close. It's slightly stylistically different. Some are wackadoodle, way out there. It stops becoming a tarot deck and starts becoming an oracle deck when you break the structure. So if you want to make the numerology tarot, and please feel free to learn cartomancy. Learn it and practice it. Don't just say, oh, I've read a book on it, or I attended a class, therefore I'm qualified to come up with a brand new deck, and all of you need to buy it. Call me an expert. Learn cartomancy. Learn numerology. Learn the subtle insides and outs. Then approach your tarot and say, okay, 2s mean this. Not in astrology, that's a different thing. This is where astrology and numerology totally, it's Eastern medicine, Western medicine. They're 2 different things, both ending toward the same goal. Can you use them both in a reading? Yes, but you can't combine them. There's 2s in astrology means totally different, and 3s and 4s, totally different things than does numerology. So if you want to make a numerological tarot deck, please do. Matter of fact, several of you probably could, and all be profitable. But you're going to have to change the art. You're going to have to revert back to a cartomantic influence where the image has to support the meaning of cartomancy. So that being said, we see subtle differences, but we also see themes whenever we're looking at cards by the numbers. Cards by the numbers is probably going to be the name of this series. So interesting sub-theme here I had not noticed before, believe it or not. This is accidental because we have the masculine element of swords, the masculine element of wands, and then the feminine elements here. The masculine elements should be imbalanced. Numerologically and astrologically speaking, from a metaphysical point of view, odd numbers are masculine, even numbers are feminine. Write that down. That's a huge mystery school secret. This applies to your numerological reductions of birthdays and names and everything else, but also when you create magical glyphs or symbols or alphabets or mathematical formulas, anytime you're doing spell work, if you want to upset the balance or you want to create a vacuum for something, to have space, end it with an odd number. Do it, or an odd number of numbers. Odd number of numbers. Odd number count. If you want something full, complete, sealed. So, for example, a pentagram, which is a five-pointed star, or a pentacle, which is a five-pointed star in a circle. Difference, right? 5 points is aggressive, masculine. It breaks, upsets the balance. What is called a Jewish star or Hebrew star, the six-pointed one with the two triangles. And then the two triangles are actually super important. We learn that in astrology. That is a feminine sign. It is full, it's complete. It's like a lock that you put on a locker, on a box, and anything else, door. But it's an external lock that seals, that holds things in place. So odd numbers, and we can apply this. This should apply to the tarot. Unfortunately, it doesn't, because remember that Pam was not some kind of metaphysical genius, and the meanings have been changed because of her artwork. And so now we have a whole gobbledygook, goulash style of just whatever's in the pot. And some goulash sounds good right now. So don't take this to heart with the tarot that we have today. If you're going to design a numerological tarot, definitely odd numbers upset the balance, even numbers restore the balance. If you need to know more about that, get your ass in class. We have a mystery school. Nonetheless, I want to talk about the twos today, and I want you to see how the interesting sub-theme here is that there's a sense of symmetry and balance in these cards. So looking at the swords card, the two swords, we have rocks on both sides. We have the swords obviously going off the edge. There can be only one moon, but even so, we have the sun and the moon is being eclipsed by the sun. That's why it's a crescent like that. We have the firmness of land in the foreground, and then we have in the near and mid background the endless water until you get to the distant background where we have some more land. So it's a bit of a duality, it's a bit of a dichotomy. It happens at night in the normal card for whatever reason. Matter of fact, I should check to make sure. Do not have that with me. Don't quote me on that, because I'm going to change my mind here. I'm looking at Gretchen's deck. Although if the moon's out there, well, obviously it happens at night. Although it could be happening during the day if it is, in fact, no, it couldn't be a solar eclipse, because solar eclipse would be a full moon, right? And then the moon would be blocking the sun. Or maybe that's the sun. Maybe that's the moon eclipsing the sun. I've always assumed this is the moon, but just for fun, what if this was an eclipse where the sun is being eclipsed by the moon, and the moon is invisible here, and we're just seeing the effect on the sun? That kind of changes things. This is the beauty of ambiguity of art, and this is one thing that Pam excelled in by accident or design, is her art is ambiguous. And that's what makes this particular deck so wonderful to read with. It makes it hard for beginners because beginners want logic and simple things. This is why cartomancy is so much easier to learn than tarot. Here's your number. Twos are always this. Threes are always this. Fours are always this. And then you just learn the suits. So it's literally apple plus orange, apple plus pear, apple plus zucchini. There's no imagination, there's no intuition. It's all just mathematical formula, and then you try to apply that to somebody's life. That works. With the tarot, we have images, we have symbology, intended and not intended. We have modern symbology that we kind of force into this old, ancient symbolism of the 1910s. And then that in turn borrowed symbolism that was ancient. So we're all over the place as far as metaphysical meanings with cards. All right, but nonetheless, there is a balance in the Two of Swords. When we go over to the Two of Cups, it's not just line down the middle with the caduceus, snakes on either side. So there's your balance. The lion has two wings here, plus it's a lion, so it's a fire element and an air element. Those are both masculine elements, right? Air element being the wings. So we have the Roman numeral 2. So we got two, lion and wings, two snakes, two cups, two people. But even more important, she's wearing the laurel, which is traditionally a masculine, very patriarchal, I'm in command kind of headdress. And then he's wearing a garland of roses, which is very feminine. So it's kind of like the meaning of this is that it's one of those things that I don't want to start paraphrasing pop trash new age euphemisms, but the idea of let me walk in my enemy's shoes for a couple of miles to understand their point of view. So if we look at this as the battle of sexes, this is like they are both trying to understand each other's point of view, and they are, in theory, exchanging cups. I mean, how can you draw that? But also the way she drew it, maybe she's holding a cup and he's like, no, I want two, and I'm taking it from her. It's male oppression, right? Well, female oppression from men, so that's masculine oppression of female. Or maybe she's presenting him a cup and he's accepting it. Like the way she drew it is, again, there's that ambiguity. She is dressed in a slightly more masculine sense, even though she's wearing a dress. Tabard, he's got the very decorative puffy sleeves and everything. She has puffy sleeves too, but he has a more flowery outfit. So there is a sense of balance. Now, when we go over here to the Two of Coins, imbalance is written all over it. He's dancing, he's off balance, or is he off balance? The waves in the background are horribly drawn, but they're definitely turbulent. He's weighing or balancing or juggling two different coins. And then, of course, here in the Two of Wands, he is facing one particular direction, and one staff is elevated above the other. He is facing the left in this particular case. We don't know whether he was facing left or right originally and whether they reversed the print or not, but that's neither here nor there. What we do know is that, matter of fact, we can say they probably didn't reverse the print here because if you zoom in, you can see the continent of Africa and what looks like Europe. So in this case, we can probably say with definitive proof that this print, and it's not whether or not the signature was there to begin with, because that always could have been added later. But we can say with definitive proof that this was, he was always meant to be looking left. But in so doing, he's ignoring what's on the right or what's behind him. So an interesting sub-theme among the twos, where we would think the twos are indicative of balance, right? One side and the other side, is that we have two cards, being the Two of Swords and the Two of Cups, that do indicate balance, and Two of Coins and the Two of Wands indicate an imbalance. What can this add to your reading? When I point these things out, I want you to be aware of them so that when you're reading, as ideas flow through your mind, as your intuition is feeding you subtle impulses, I want you to be aware of the various possible meanings that may come into your mind. You can kind of just unlock that rigidity. Too many of us learn keywords, formula, Kabbalah, numerology. We learn these things like logic, logic, logic. Everything has to have a rigidity. Now, in and of themselves, they are great. Logic is wonderful, but you can't force restrictive, reductionist, formulaic logic into the tarot. It's not going to work. Comparing this, before I forget, to the other two, which I did mention, if you're listening to the podcast version of this, please pull out your high priestess. I'll pop that up here on the screen for the video. And again, what can we look here? As I have mentioned earlier, metaphysically speaking, odd numbers are masculine, female numbers are feminine. Just the way it works in magic and in I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Just in magic. So here she is the counterpart to the magician. Magician is the alpha, the world is the omega, so she is the counterpart to the magician, but also the high priestess is the counterpart to the magician, where the magician is very outward, broadcast, show of force, show of authority, dominance, arrogance, human will, ego, skilled, but nonetheless, the high priestess, the concept of the high priestess, they're drawing in this particular case, weight drew heavily from the Orphic divination centers or the priestesses at Delphi, the Vestal virgins, and the other Eleusinian mysteries. So in this sense here, yes, this is Demeter. How do we know that? Because of the pomegranates, because unfortunately, you bugger one goat, right? You eat one pomegranate seed and all of a sudden you got to spend the rest of your life in hell because you're the guy who kidnapped you and stole you and forced food into your mouth when you were asleep. So when Mercury comes by and Zeus is declared if she is eaten, and Hades is like, oh, quick, I gotta fix this. Haha, see, no, she's spitting out pomegranate seeds, said therefore she has to be my wife. Them's the rules, right? Well, this is we know that it's Demeter because of the pomegranate seeds. So what do we have here? She is the veil. Right? In many ways, as much as the how to read the tarot, as we've covered before, and especially gone into in the academy, how to read the tarot is summed up in the lesson of the Fool. Well, in many ways, the high priestess represents the art and act of divination. The J and the B are from Solomon's Temple. It reads, was that right to left, black and white. The palm tree sculptures here. We've got a mishmash of different religions, and we got the pearl up here, and then the moon is at her feet. So people think this is a triple moon. It is absolutely not, because this was not the triple moon of Wicca. That was something there was no Wicca when this was created. It's something Gerald Gardner came up with. There's been witchcraft forever, obviously. If you want to call it that. It's been magical practices forever. But it's like there was no fucking McDonald's in the 1940s. There was no Wicca in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Certainly not here in the 1910s. So it's not the triple moon, especially because the moon is right there. It's bright yellow. It's at her feet. The symbology here, and her tresses are very watery. So we've got and of course the water behind her, symbolizing the subconscious. It's kind of interesting that the duality of imagery between the two of swords and the high priestess. They're both sitting at the same place on the same stone. Just one has been here. Let's swap out the set. Bring in some stuff here. And again, in Pam's inimitable style, she put up a backdrop. So the essence here is that she is above the moon. She is beyond the moon. That's another secret of divination, is that intuition is beyond the subconscious. The subconscious is a conduit. Intuitive, I like to teach that our intuition is a gateway or a valve. It's not an end destination. It's not not a pocket dimension or resource. It's it's a conduit through which information travels. The short version is that we have our conscious mind, our subconscious mind, and then there's the divine, or everything outside of us, and our intuitive gateway. And it opens and closes like a valve, or an iris. Sometimes our intuition is wide open. We like that. And then other times our intuition clams up really tight. What do these stupid cards mean? This happens to everybody. This is why we have exercises and lessons and games to help you massage your third eye open, massage your intuition open, so that it will be a part of your daily life rather than something you struggle with. So that's what this represents. The high priestess, even in this highly anglicized sense, even in the way that Waite has kind of butchered the original concept of the papist, meaning female pope. What was her name? Pope Joan? I mean, it's arguable, but no less. Forgive me if I get the name wrong. But she is, and this is an equilateral cross. See, it's not the Jesus cross. No offense to Jesus, but that's a plus sign to me. Pam could have easily made this a lot longer, and Waite could have made this longer. And she's holding the Torah, not the Bible. So we have a mixture of Hebrew, Greek, there's Egyptian mythology here, symbology here. There's all kinds of mishmash of stuff. But she represents a sense of balance through sitting back, absorbing. This is what divination is, right? We absorb information. We are pulling information in from outside means, where with the magician, we are arrogantly broadcasting our own desires out to the world. So she is divination, he is manifestation. It's little things like this that once you understand it, everything in the tarot just starts to click, just starts to make sense. So these are the 5 twos, because there are 5 suits in the tarot. We normally think of 4 suits in trump cards, or even just the minor arcana versus the major arcana. But these are artificial barriers. These are artificial divisions that, yes, we can, in a Virgoan way, categorize everything. We can go, okay, each suit is swords and cups and wands and coins, and then trumps. We can go major arcana, minor arcana. We can break it down by numbers. We have twos, all of them, or we have the minor arcana twos versus the twos in the major arcana, including the number 2. The magician is the second card in a sense. There's the number 20 card. If we start going 1 through 22, we would call the world 22nd card, even though it's the 21st card. There's different ways we can look at the twos. We can look at card 11. Waite swapped out strength with justice because he really, really wanted justice to be 1-1. It's a Libra, so it should be a 7, right? This is where astrology and the tarot don't blend, right? No, he was like, I need it to be 1-1. And then as we see, if you look at your justice card, it doesn't say 1-1. It doesn't say 11. It says XI. That kind of breaks, and we have to go, oh, that means 11. Well, if it's all about symbology, then justice should have been card number 2, 1-1, right? Or could have been card 20, XX. But this is where, when you start swapping cards out, which is exactly what Waite did, because he wanted to force an order to create this new variant. Well, now this whole journey of the Fool doesn't make sense, because you've got cards being mixed around, and then the Fool itself can happen between cards. Well, it can happen, it's an escape card, so it can be anywhere. But a lot of people put it between 20 and 21. Just be careful what you ingest is all I'm asking. Just be careful not to believe anything and everything that you've been told. So there's a long-winded discussion of what you can see behind the scenes with the twos, beyond the traditional meanings and beyond the suit meanings of, the swords are intellectual, although remember, the swords are very violent. So you can't just say, well, the swords are air, because technically the wands should be air and the swords should be fire. But that's an argument for another day. And nobody believes that, because we've all been taught that wands are fire because wood burns, and then swords are air because, that's literally it. Like, swords cut through the air. Well, everything cuts through the air, once you learn alchemy and metaphysics, you're going to realize that tarot is greatly flawed. Now, I'm not here to badmouth it. I just want you to know, relax, enjoy the ride, but don't buy into a lot of the new age hype and the new 13th or 15th sign. And there's like 12 planets now instead of 7 or 10 if you prefer, or there's 15 zodiac signs. Everybody wants to sell you something, and everybody wants to have their name on the side of the building. Look, I was the one that discovered this. Be very careful when you're ingesting new age garbage, that you're not poisoning yourself with a passing fad of a thought that years from now you'll totally detach yourself from. But how many years of your life are you poisoning with this? And how much are you not making progress? So that's why these lessons are free. Yes, we have an academy. I'd like you to be here. I'd like you to help keep the lights on. And I'd also like you to get a damn education. It's only $10 a week. And we have a community. You get access to that. Go to Easy Tarot Lessons. We have a free month. Well, free month. Technically, we don't have a free month. We have free lifetime access, because we have free live workshops where I help you. We've got free video lessons, free audio lessons. But I misspoke when I said free month, because our first month is actually $1. Because I want to see somebody put up an actual dollar, and put your money where your mouth is before I teach you what's really going on in the world, and before we let you in to talk to all of our students and me. Well, you talk to me for free. So yeah, that's the long and the short of it. Thank you for being here. In the meantime, we have a workshop here, so I'm going to start answering questions. But I'm going to stop this recording, and if you're here, you have my assistance and help. And if you're just hearing the recording, thanks for being here. You're missing out. All right. We'll see you next time.